everybody. I am Joanna Craney, co-founder, partner, and special needs planner with Empowered Financial Strategies. And I am so excited today to have Josh Kershenbaum join us for this live interview. And I was recently introduced to Josh through a friend of mine and an old colleague. And ironically, we were in the same place at the same time out in Seattle at the Academy of Special Needs Planners Conference. And lo and behold, we have, our paths have crossed. We didn't know it. And we both serve the special needs community. So I wanted to take the opportunity today to talk with Josh and really highlight his background, which is pretty extensive. Just to give you a little bit of background about Josh before I start pepping him with some questions for all you listeners. Josh is a dedicated peacemaker with extensive training and experience in mediation and collaborative law. And we're going to get into what that means because I honestly did not know what that meant before I spoke with him. And he brings over 20 years of experience and expertise in the areas of education and special education law to his mediation and collaborative divorce practice. He devotes much of his time to helping parents of children and adults with special needs navigate their divorces through mediation and collaborative practice. He also continues to help parents, students, school districts, and higher education institutions resolve special education and other conflicts through mediation. So I want to welcome you, Josh. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much, Joanna. It's a real pleasure.
Awesome. And so just to get started, I'm so curious, what got you into this line of work?
Well, as you mentioned, I have spent my entire professional career working with families who have children and adults in their lives with special needs. And that actually started out before I was even a lawyer. I was a teacher. I was a public school teacher as my first career. And I really just was drawn toward any work that involved helping children. And it was much later in my career that I realized that the thing I loved most was helping people resolve disputes peacefully. And I took the work that I did as a special education lawyer and as a teacher and as somebody who works with families who are touched in one way or another by special needs. I took that and I kind of married it, so to speak, with my interest in dispute resolution. So when I was a special education lawyer for many years, I had my own firm. I decided to sell my firm and move entirely into the world of mediation and collaborative practice. And I could think of no better way to do that than to bring those peacemaking skills and passions to help families who have kids with special needs who are going through divorce navigate that very, very tricky minefield. I realized very quickly that, divorce is a labyrinth. Separation and family restructuring is a labyrinth. And parenting a child with special needs or caring for an adult with special needs is also a labyrinth. And for people who are going through both at the same time, it really is like standing in two interlocking labyrinths, often with blindfolds on, not having any idea where to go and where to turn. And it can be very problematic. So I decided that I was in a good position with my experience and interest to help people navigate those labyrinths. And it introduced me to this new and exciting world of special needs dispute resolution, which is a really new thing. But I'm one of the people that's out there really trying to create this and help people get through this.
That's so fantastic. And, when you say it's a new thing, it seems like you really have this out of box thinking when it comes to this process, but it's not a new issue, right?
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. So, and it's.
No, Joanna, I'll tell you, I was really surprised when I first decided to do this work. I thought that with all of the people that are getting divorced and with all the people who have kids with special needs, there must be lots of people out there that are helping folks navigate those two processes at the same time. And I was very, very surprised, and I am still very, very surprised that this isn't a more developed field, but I was really happy to find people all over the country. There are people who have been doing this work and who are working together now to really improve this service that we can offer to people who are going through these two things at the same time. So yeah, I was surprised as you were that this wasn't farther along. I thought there would be lots of books written about it and millions of articles, and there really aren't. But we're starting to do that work, and I'm meeting incredible people all over the country who are working in so many different ways to help families get through this.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. It amazes me how much information comes as a shock to parents when we are delivering presentations to parents. So, can you explain some of the biggest challenges that you see that divorced parents of children with special needs are facing today?
Well, sure. I mean, think of it this way. Divorce and separation are really about restructuring your family, right? We often think of divorce or separation as the end, as an ending, but it's really not. Particularly when you have a kid with special needs who's going to have those needs for their entire life, your parents of that child, you're going to still have a connection and a relationship that's going to endure and last even beyond the separation and divorce. You're kind of in it for the long haul. And that means that you have extra challenges when restructuring your family. You have to do it in a way that's actually going to work for your child. Think about a very typical example. You have a married couple who have a child with autism, and that child has a really hard time transitioning from one place to another, from one activity to another. Imagine contemplating the idea of having that child have to transition between two homes. So that by itself can be a monumental challenge for couples that are going through divorce. And in fact, it can prevent people from thinking that divorce is even possible. And it is one of the reasons why we don't really have a good idea about how common it is or how frequently parents who have kids with special needs get divorced. We don't know a lot about this, and in part because we know from experience that a lot of folks would really like to get divorced. They really need to do it, but they think that it's impossible. And so you need to have people working with you who understand the very specific challenges that you're facing logistically and practically, but also from a financial standpoint. How do you plan financially for lifelong care for your child and do it in a way that is not going to cut off their access to public benefits? How do you do your estate planning to make sure that if your child inherits money, they don't lose their public benefits? How do you coordinate care when you're not living in the same home as the other parents? Doctor's appointments, hospital appointments, all the different kinds of therapy. And all of this is to say nothing of the ongoing special education needs that the child is going to have. Where's the child going to go to school? Does the child need to go to a special school? What are we going to do about IEP meetings? Are we going to go together? Are we going to make those decisions together? Or is one of us going to have the educational decision making? There are all kinds of questions that parents who have children with special needs are going to face, and they might not even realize that they have those questions before them. People don't know what they don't know. You don't get a handbook or a manual handed to you when you have a child, whether your child has special needs or not. So if the people that are helping you through the process don't know that these are even issues, it's never going to come up. But if they do, if there are people on your team, whether it's your mediator or your collaborative team or your financial advisor, if those people know that these are issues, they can at least help you ask the questions and find people that can help you answer them, so that when you are building your agreements, when you're building your life after your divorce or your separation, you can take these things into consideration and have an agreement that's actually going to work for your family, that's going to endure, and that isn't going to wind you up in all kinds of conflicts down the road that you didn't even anticipate.
That's great. And it just makes me think about how critical it is for families to work with experts in each area of special needs planning, whether it be an attorney that's drafting estate documents, whether it be an attorney that working with you in a collaborative divorce, whether it be with a financial advisor that understands the financial piece of special needs planning, someone that understands government benefits and waivers, and even the accountants or the CPAs. I often see people miss out on deductions that they could have otherwise taken. So I think the important piece here is that there's going to be challenges that one faces, and it sounds like you open up the world of possibility for families to navigate this very challenging time for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you really hit the nail on the head. You need a team. In the case of parents who are divorcing and who have a kid with special needs or an adult with special needs in their life, it is impossible to do that by yourself and to do it in a way that's actually going to protect all of your interests and all of your child's interests. Nobody could do that alone. Yeah. It really does take special expertise because there's no one person that knows all the different ways that this divorce is going to intersect with the rights and interests of this child. Nobody. And so what you do when you work with folks like you or like me is you get access to a whole community, a whole network of people that can answer different questions. I can't answer questions about the tax implications of this deduction or that deduction. That's not my area, but I know people who do know the answers to that question, and I can connect people with them. So we're building a team.
Right.
We're building a team to help people through this journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we certainly know that we need a team. So can you give us some information on what does mediation and collaborative divorce offer these parents that other divorce processes do not?
Yes. So the biggest thing that separates options like mediation and collaborative law from the alternatives, and the alternatives tend to be court-resolved divorces, like litigation, right? The biggest difference is that when you go to court, what you're doing is you are turning decisions over to somebody else. You are taking your disputes and your challenges and your questions, and you are asking a judge to answer those questions for you and to impose a decision on you. And right away, you can see how problematic that is for a family whose needs are really unique and complicated, because courts are not set up to answer these complex questions. They are set up to deal with sort of the typical ordinary situations. This, of course, is the dilemma that parents of kids with special needs are in from day one. Their children are born into the world, and the parents become parents in a world that was not totally set up for a kid with those needs and for parents who have those needs. And they're constantly trying to fit themselves into the existing structures that are in place. So if you take a path that requires somebody else to make decisions for you, you have a lot of risk and a lot of vulnerability that whatever outcome they come up with is not going to fit your needs. But mediation and collaborative practice are really different. In those processes, there is nobody else that's making decisions for you. The parents are the ones that are making all of the decisions and creating the solutions. In mediation and collaborative practice, there's no outside decision maker. Nobody else to say, this is how you have to do it. You are not bound by whatever the law or whatever the courts say that how they're going to resolve your dispute. You get to create the agreements. So in mediation, you and your partner or spouse, the other parents, are going to sit down together with the help of a skillful facilitator, a mediator who is neutral, whose job it is to facilitate a conversation between the two of you and to help you create an agreement that makes sense for your family. And sometimes that might involve bringing in other experts and ideas to give you answers to some questions that you might have and to make sure that you're covering all the bases that you need to cover, but you're the ones that are making the decisions. And nobody's going to know your situation or your interest or your child's needs better than you. So you want to be in a process that gives you maximum control over what the outcome is going to be, and that does it efficiently and in a way that respects your resources. Collaborative practice is similar. Collaborative practice involves building a team of professionals who are specially trained to navigate the divorce process with you. Each of you will have an attorney that is specially trained in the collaborative process, and you will agree from the outset to work together without going to court. Collaborative process is very different from litigation because at the outset, you are signing an agreement that says, we're not going to go to court over this. We're going to work this out together. And if we change our minds and decide that we need to go to court, we're going to have to find new lawyers because these lawyers are not going to go to court for us. They're not going to represent us in court. You also get to put other professionals on this collaborative team. You can have a financial advisor, a financial neutral who works with both of you to help you navigate the financial issues that are coming up with your divorce. That person is a member of this team. You can have a divorce coach or a special needs coach who can be on the team and bring their expertise to help you get through the difficult emotional or logistical challenges that you're having to come up with your agreement. It's a team process where you, as the couple, as the parents, get to create the outcomes that work for your family. Both of these processes keep you in control of the outcomes. They're voluntary, nobody can force you to be in them, they're confidential, and they take way less time and cost way less money than going to court. And that conserves resources for you, for your children, and frankly, it respects and values your time. And more than anything else, parents of kids with special needs just don't have the time. They don't have the time to be in years of drawn out litigation, and they don't have the resources to do that either. So this offers people a path, a peaceful path, to efficiently work towards creating your own resolution that works for you, and both allow other professionals to participate to help both of you come up with a sensible agreement that is flexible and that endures long after your divorce or separation.
That's a really powerful information for our listeners. I would imagine that this process, this collaborative divorce process, is exactly what a lot of our parents need if they're contemplating a divorce and they have a child that is going to be dependent upon them for the rest of their lives. So as we wrap up today, I wanted to ask you, what do you hope listeners what do you want listeners to do with this information, this really powerful information?
So there's different types of people that are listening right now. If you are a parent who is contemplating going through divorce, or maybe you've already started, maybe you're already in the divorce process, maybe you're even already in litigation, what I want you to know is that you have choices. It is never too late to begin mediation or the collaborative process if you feel that that's the path for you. I want you to know that you have choices, that you're not stuck on the path that you're on right now. Even in situations where there's a lot of conflict and there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of emotions, which is very common, obviously, in all divorces, people come to mediation and the collaborative process, even in situations where it's very contentious. And they do it because it's better than the alternative. Even people that are in litigation, those folks really understand the limitations of the litigation process and are often looking for alternatives. I also want you to understand that you don't have to come to mediation or the collaborative process to resolve everything. Maybe there's just one aspect of this that that you like help resolving out of court. You can do that. It's a very flexible process. So most of all, I want you to know that you have choices. And similarly, if you're watching right now and you are a professional that works with families that have kids with special needs or who are going through divorce, I want you to take this information and share it with people. The biggest problem that people face right now is they don't even know that these are choices. They don't even know it's an option. It's by far the biggest challenge that I face in this work, is that people don't even know that this is a thing. So they don't Google it. And, when they're getting divorced, they call a lawyer. Most lawyers use a litigation or adversarial process, and they don't necessarily open people's eyes or minds to the possibility that there's other ways to do this. So mostly what I want people to take from this is you now are empowered with information that is really important and can really help people. Spread the word. Tell people if this is an option. I love talking to people about this. I speak to groups. I speak to individuals. I do trainings. I write. I just published an article in a law journal with some of my colleagues about using the collaborative process for families who are going through divorce. The word is spreading. Be part of that. Spread the word. You could make the difference in the future of a child's whole life, in keeping a family actually functioning rather than being torn apart by divorce.
Wow. Thanks so much, Josh. For our listeners today, I want to make sure that they're able to contact you. What is the best way for families to reach out and utilize you as a resource?
Okay, so right here, I put my email address, josh@jjrlawfirm.com. I'm with the law offices of Jennifer J. Riley in Bluebell and Wayne, Pennsylvania, but we work with folks all over Pennsylvania. And in the mediation context, I can actually work with people who are not even in Pennsylvania. So send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd be happy to answer questions, set up a time to do a Zoom. If you have a group of people that you think would be interested in learning about this, I could speak with you. let's spread the word together.
That's fantastic. And like you said, what you don't know can really affect the trajectory of the outcome. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Josh. Again, Josh at jjrlawfirm.com. And thank you so much, Josh, for spending some time with us here today and highlighting you as a real advocate in the disability community.
Thank you, Joanna. It's a great pleasure.
All right.